All right, everyone. Hello and welcome to our 2023 Buyer Insights and Intelligence series. Today's webcast is titled Intent-Driven ABM, Harnessing a Dynamic Duo for Laser-Targeted Marketing. My name is Kelly Lindenau, and I'm the editor of Demand Gen Report, and I'll be moderating this presentation today. I am so excited you all joined us today, but before we get going, I have a few housekeeping slides I have to run through with you first. So if you are unfamiliar with Demand Gen Report, let me bring you up to speed. We are an online media company, and we publish daily news, a weekly email newsletter, special reports, original research, and a rich menu of additional resources. And if you haven't done so already, make sure to join more than 75,000 of your colleagues who subscribe to our weekly email newsletter. You can subscribe today at demandgenreport.com. Throughout today's session and the series as a whole, please follow along and share your thoughts and feedback on Twitter and LinkedIn. You could see all of our links and handles right here on your screen. And now I would like to take some time to announce that we are shipping back up to Boston for the B2B Sales and Marketing Exchange. Registration is currently open and we're updating the agenda weekly, so make sure to check out the website and register now. Just visit b2bsalesmarketing.exchange to save your seat and build your agenda. And now today's presentation is taking place in the On24 platform. Throughout the session, you can access all the information you need from this toolbar you see on your screen. I also encourage you to ask our presenters questions. To submit those, simply click the Q&A widget at the top right corner of your screen. We have today's presentation scheduled to run between 25 and 35 minutes, and we'll reserve about 10 minutes at the end for a Q&A. Again, you could submit these questions at any time using the widget. And then if you look right below that Q&A widget, you'll find some other resources that we've made available to you. And we are recording today's session, and all attendees will receive an archive link to the presentation to go back and review or even share with your colleagues. We've also put together a very brief survey that will automatically launch once this webinar series ends. You can also pull up, complete, and submit the survey at any time during this webinar, simply by clicking on the survey icon circled here on the bottom of your screen. Before signing off today, please take a moment to share your thoughts and feedback so we can continue to enhance our events to your liking. All right, so we are finally getting to the good stuff. I am so pleased to introduce our featured speakers for today, Deeksha Taneja and Kaylin Holbrooks. Kaylin is the VP of Integrated Marketing at ZoomInfo. Based in Seattle, Kaylin has more than 16 years of experience in B2B marketing at Microsoft, Tableau, Salesforce, Databricks, and now ZoomInfo. She currently runs a team responsible for driving cross-channel strategy, orchestrating campaign and go-to-market plays, and helping expand ZoomInfo's biggest customers across the globe. Kaylin's free time is spent teaching her two young kids her own favorite hobbies of water sports, snow sports, hiking, soccer, and eventually wine tasting. Deeksha is the Senior Director of Growth and Optimization in the ZoomInfo marketing team. She oversees demand gen, paid search, marketing analytics, and data strategy. In her current role, she is tasked with delivering continuous business performance by building efficient marketing programs that leverage scalable data infrastructure, analytical frameworks, and reporting. Deeksha joined ZoomInfo in 2021, and she brought with her more than 15 years of experience spanning marketing, strategy, analytics, and operations at high-growth, fast-paced organizations. So it is clear that we have the experts with us today. And with that, I'm going to pass things over. And just my first question for you ladies is, what exactly is buyer intent data and what insights can be derived from it?
Firstly, thank you for giving me the opportunity. I am excited about talking about all things intent and all things data. So here I am. What is intent data? Buyer intent generally refers to information which indicates potential buyers' interest or the readiness to make a purchase. It typically involves collecting and analyzing various data points and buying signals across your different, marketing touch points. This could be some explicit indicators where they're asking for a request for a quote or a demo, or they could be some of the implicit ones where they are just visiting the website, engaging with specific content, doing some other online interactions, whether it's with your social media or your marketing email or a webinar like this. And what it does for you, the webinar, the buyer intent, it empowers you to find that sub-segment within your traditional ICP. So we've been like talking about our like firmographic data and the demographic data. What intent or the buyer intent signals does is it cuts through that and finds that traditional, outside of that traditional ICP, getting that sub-segment where you go from, from addressable market to a more like targeted market. Um, Intent generally monitors like different consumption patterns. Of course, not all interests are, created equal, which is where when you apply the intent data on top of ICP data, that becomes super powerful and reduces a lot of noise in your data, and you can really get to your best fit accounts. What do you mean by consumption generally? Like it's a mixture of your first party data, which as I said, like you're collecting through your own channels, or it's a third party data, for example, when your website visits to the specific pages, or you're doing some sort of search, or outside on the search media, what are the things that they're interacting with? You could also use third party data like for companies like ZoomInfo, where you can use that to then personalize your marketing campaigns as well as your web experience. It's a lot of powerful information on top of your traditional things that you've used for scoring and understanding your leads in ICP that kind of gives you that way to prioritize your efforts and marketing dollars.
All right, awesome. So then with that in mind, how can buyer intent data help to gain a better understanding of target market and accounts?
At ZoomInfo, we actually do a program that we call Rear View Intent. So we look back at successfully closed won accounts or deals and see which intent topics, which things they were doing, as Deeksha just talked about, that are actually spiking on shortly before that opportunity was created. This gives us a guideline for the topics, areas of research, activities that they're doing that really ended up driving those opportunities and those deals. This informs things like our sales talk tracks. It informs the marketing campaigns and topics that my integrated marketing campaign team develops. It also makes sure that we are triggering and motioning off of those intent signals that have actually been successful. So it's going back and looking at what was recently successful can inform our sort of understanding of how to take advantage of those signals in the future. It also helps us see and kind of how our accounts are evolving in terms of things they're looking at and how they're thinking about their go-to-market business.
All right, awesome. So on the topic of accounts, let's shift slightly to discuss some of account-based strategies and campaigns. So what is the future of intent data in driving successful ABM strategies, and how can organizations use intent data to amplify their account-based strategies?
Sure. A lot of, ABM's been around a while, and a lot of that generally starts with your target set of accounts, whether that's a small account list you've aligned on with sales or a broadly looking at your ICP. But it isn't just about the firmographics and top accounts based off of, who do you think is most likely to grow in your revenue this year, or what are the big names you're trying to land. The future of it is using intent data to narrow in on who might actually be in market for a solution like yours. So not just an account list that sales wants to go after, but letting the accounts themselves almost identify who should be within your ABM program. Additionally, I believe intent data is more and more being used to personalize or tailor your ABM messages based off of the content or customizing your ads or your outreach messaging, but more at scale. So sometimes people can think of it as a one-to-one, and we have to be customized and actually refer to the account within our ads and things like that. Or it's just, hey, this is our target account list. But intent allows you to be somewhere in between, where you can group your accounts based off of the sub-themes and intent topics and areas of interest, whether that's product, industry, etc., and running those targeted campaigns more at scale than the personalized, but still more targeted than just a blanket target account list.
All right, perfect. So then with that in mind, what do you see as the future of intent data in driving successful ABM strategies? And are there any upcoming developments or trends that organizations should prepare for?
Yeah, I'm really excited about this because I actually believe the future of ABM is evolving into what we at ZoomInfo are calling go-to-market place. We actually have a dedicated team function within marketing at ZoomInfo that sits under my broader marketing, integrated marketing org that runs dozens of go-to-market plays a month. These aren't just ABM. These are based solely on proven intent signals that we capture and drum up for the SDRs, just inbound leads and driving ads to different campaigns and content, but capturing that intent in real time. And so it's an evolution of, and it kind of works in corresponding with ABM, but I see go-to-marketplace is the future of that. And because it's so much more efficient based off of who is in market, and it allows you to look at a wider swath of accounts, and then have those almost self-select through the research and activities that they're doing. Some of the top plays that we run are things like scoops. So that's what we call when somebody has some news out in the market or a new funding round, things like that. We also run next logical product. So if they're spiking on different intent topics, that's going to drive to a different product. Obviously, that gives us a cross-sell opportunity. When executives move, so a new CIO, new CTO, things like that, that's a really noteworthy moment to come into the account and be sort of a trusted advisor. We actually put our entire go-to-market playbook online for free. So the 50 to 100 plays that we run on a pretty regular basis are available to the public to kind of go out and see how we're thinking about this, because we're that excited about really where this is moving the marketing organization into being more efficient and effective through go-to-market plays. So I believe, much like we talk about ABM now is almost a commonplace strategy within B2B organizations, in the next couple of years, I think we're going to be talking about go-to-market plays as that sort of joint strategy that aligns sales and marketing together.
So it definitely sounds like there's so much intent data and all of that good stuff coming in. So it seems like identifying the most valuable intent data points can be a challenge. So how do you suggest folks go about that?
Before actually I jump into the data points, I do want to piggyback on Kaylin's point. I alluded to potential noise when it comes to buyer intent. Of course, the data unlocks the potential to personalize your marketing campaigns. You can tailor your sales pitches, prioritize your leads, and optimize your conversion rates. But how do you scale? I think that's what gets lost over here. And another key differentiator between your, parents' intent engine and the modern intent engine is the ability to hone in on the specific buying groups within an account showing interest. So when you think about account, it's a big account, accounts buy, but it's actually eventually the people, the stakeholders, the gatekeepers, the decision makers who are actually making those purchases. They're out there, writing, giving you those implicit and explicit signals about what their pain points are, what are they looking for. And if you can layer those intent signals into the messaging and multi-threading them through different marketing channels, that's kind of where you would be able to, unlock the potential of, the personalization, so to say, at scale. You can talk about like how it works for different departments, structures, roles, responsibility, and go to what they really truly care about. If I actually go into the specific data points, it could vary from the context and the industry, but there are a few of the ones that are common regardless of wherever you are. The first few are the online behavior. How many visits are you coming to? What are the content that you're engaging with? The clicks, the downloads, the amount of time that you're spending on different pages. That can indicate your interest or the purchase intent and where you are on your buying journey cycle. Other than that, for us, we also run a pretty robust paid engine. So what kind of queries are you searching for out in the world? How does that map to the products that we're putting out in the market? What is your social media engagement with our pages and different other pages out there which talk about similar content? The email engagement, the registration with the events. What is your purchase history? Lead scoring. Geolocation, but one of my favorite things over here is the technographic data. Understanding the technologies that different companies are using and the tools that the businesses are using and helping identify what are their typical pain points and the potential opportunities. Now you have that coupled with what are the pain points that they're putting out in the market and searching for things. You start coupling all of those things. You start creating that map, which allows for you to create a robust marketing play. What we need to look at is what, who, and when. What signals to prioritize? There's a lot of data out there right now. What signals to prioritize, who to prioritize it for, and when to prioritize it for the next best action, which is where the categorization of those signals is super helpful, where You're saying that, these are 100,000 signals that are out there. Within them, these are the ones that we care for top of the funnel. These are the ones that are more like bottom of the funnel and require a different kind of a nurture. And these are the middle of the funnel and the bottom of the funnel, where then what is the next best action for us to like put them in. Specifically talking about the bottom of the funnel one, where at that point you're thinking about like how can we make sure that we're only sending the sales ready leads, sales ready accounts to the sales team, but not just handing it off to them, but giving them enough context so the transition from marketing into sales is seamless, where the conversation is seamless between what they've done in the past and where they're headed, and sales can really pick up that conversation. As I said, like this all allows for personalization at scale. Eventually, we're not talking about like getting to that one account. We're trying to get to those set of accounts that are showing similar signals and creating like plays which can like tackle them at scale. Yeah.
All right, perfect. So now, obviously, a key feature of ABM is sales and marketing alignment. And we know that tracking an account from marketing to a deal closed through ABM is no easy feat. So how can the integration of intent data and a robust tech stack enhance the collaboration between sales and marketing teams in these ABM approaches?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is what I was talking about earlier. It all boils down to what, who, and when. I mean, here at ZoomInfo, Kaylin would attest to it, the amount of time that we spend talking to the sales team about all the motions that we're running on the marketing side, when it comes to, again, looking at those signals and saying, what are we prioritizing for the sales to work on? What are we prioritizing for marketing to work on? Where am I providing that air coverage so that within marketing, we are progressing through the funnel. And as they move to the sales side, again, using those intent signals, again, using those visual indicators to let sales know which accounts to prioritize, which ones are showing like high on intent, and then ensuring that the limited resources that we are all struggling with right now within our own like different organizations, that we're prioritizing it based on not just the ICP, not just the firmographic and the technographic, but also on the intent signals. So I think the first thing it helps in the sales and marketing alignment is identifying and aligning on the target accounts. We have like the broad set of accounts, but then you couple that with the intent signals and making sure that these are the top accounts that the sales is also prioritizing, which marketing is seeing a heavy, high hand raisers on. Then the second piece of that is personalizing messaging. So what are we talking from the marketing talk track to ensure that we are referring to the right pain points, and then giving that back to the sales to ensure that they are also touching on the same pain points, and customizing the conversation to the pain points and making sure that those inputs are fully leveraged. The third point that you would use, as I said, is the prioritization of the sales effort, right? There's a lot out there. Within that, and the limited resources we have, how do we make sure that we are prioritizing our efforts? Another thing that I want to talk about, which Kaylin's team beautifully does here, is the trigger-based sales outreach. Now, this is where, I would say the automation, the data, as well as the marketing plays like comes together, where using something that, Kaylin had shared earlier about like scoops or some of these higher intent signals, how you leverage that to then create more automated plays so that you can move people from different stages within the purchase cycle. Sharing those account insights and intelligence, again, through different teams, ensuring that we are having a more multi-threaded messaging. And then at the end of all of it, it's the measurement and optimization, making sure that you have the tech stack, making sure you have the data to truly understand the impact of the marketing campaigns on the different account engagement and the conversion through the funnel. And I think one thing that I will say, what intent signals intent is, pun intended, it's basically making sure that you're touching them at the right time. The timely fashion of your touches is the game changer. A somewhat of a smaller example over here, I'd say, right? If you're coming to our website and you're filling out a form, which is a very, very high intent signal, like there is no higher intent signal than you like actually asking for something in a hand raiser. We're like monitoring a lot of our data points through the week, month and through different channels. And we've seen that when somebody's showing higher intent, that coupled with the right touch, in this case, a sales touch because they're highly qualified, actually increases the conversion by 4 to 5 times. And that is a meaningful metric, right? When we are all strapped by resources and we are all specifically on the marketing driven by the ROI that we have to be delivering on the dollars, if you can actually connect the dots and really get in front of the right people at the right time, there is a meaningful impact on the conversion rate, which shows up in the ROI. And that's where the power of intent signal is. It's about prioritization and actually getting those conversions through the funnel.
Perfect. So then, what are some of the key challenges that organizations typically face when they're trying to get their sales and marketing teams aligned for successful ABM initiatives?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of challenges with that. I think, as Diksha alluded to, the definition of ABM requires that sales and marketing alignment. Like one arm, the sales arm needs to be working with the same accounts as the marketing side, or the whole thing falls apart. So I think the biggest challenge is getting to that defined ICP or that defined list, and then not changing that so frequently that we can't be successful. ABM can take a while, and not to point fingers, but if sales gives up too quickly, we're never going to be successful. If they want to pivot and shift too often on that, what that list is, or they change without notification, or there's too many different lists and different criteria floating around, you're not going to be successful. So aligning on that upfront and then sticking with it long enough, depending on the length of your sales cycle and industry and who you sell to, is like the number one challenge and the number one criteria to be successful. Secondly, I think it comes down to that fully integrated tech stack Diksha talked about as well. So from advertising and emails, inbound and outbound events, sales, customer success, we have to be using the same account data as well as the same intent data. Every time that we have to shift and move data or things between different tech stacks, things break, things fall out. You lose that momentum and you lose some of that connectivity. So fully integrating your tech stack across ABM, and that doesn't just mean within marketing, it's sales, marketing, and customer as well. Then I also think the what Diksha mentioned. So consistent messaging and what we're actually saying. We talk a lot about, there's a top of funnel version of a message, and then there's a very, very bottom of funnel version that, customers and sales will talk about. So making sure we drive that enablement and alignment on that message, and they know what to say and when, is another way that things can fall apart and to drive that alignment on. It's a little bit more tactically easy, I would say, but also you have less control over that, right? So that can be a challenge. And then lastly, I'd say flexibility, which is almost counter to my first point, but a way for sales to opt their accounts in, and a way for sales to be somewhat in the driver's seat on what those ABM programs are. That's really picking up in popularity as sales has come on board with what ABM is. They want to have some skin in the game and they want to have a say. So that requires some operational rigor, data quality, things like that. We have a feature we call Air Cover that allows sales to self-opt some of their campaign accounts into sort of our top of funnel campaigns. So those are kind of the key challenges I think that a lot of tools and technology have helped solve over the last handful of years, but we continue to see focus on figuring out that for alignment.
Perfect. So then to shift over to optimization, can you share how a data-driven approach benefits an account-based marketing strategy and helps organizations effectively allocate resources and budget by considering essential data points and metrics?
A data-driven approach can greatly benefit the account-based marketing strategy. It provides organization like some valuable insights into where to effectively prioritize, allocate your resources and budget. For a lot of ABM go-to-marketplace that we've been talking about, it requires patience and it's a long game. So having that data connectivity as account progresses through the funnel, ensuring that your tech stack is enabled to be able to connect those dots is extremely important. Some of the performance indicators and some of the metrics that one looks at and we look at are the account engagement, how they're engaging with different things. And engagement is such a broad metric, right? It could mean like viewing something to really actively engaging with something. each engagement means different things. Each engagement with different touch points means something else. So ensuring that you're collecting those data points and providing enough points, so to say, to each of the engagement, and not just truly looking at, the usual hard metrics. And then we get there. Once you've gotten the engagement from those accounts, you get to, your conversion rates, your how much is the revenue generated, what is the customer lifetime value for different accounts and different segments. And using those touch points, using that engagement, using those conversion metrics, that's where organizations can identify what strategies are working and what needs to be improved. The data is important because that's going to tell you the intent signals that you think are the higher drivers. Are those truly the higher drivers by looking at the data? If I think filling out a form is a higher intent, but if they're not converting because the form that they filled is an ebook and their intent is very different when they're engaging with an ebook versus something else, like even though it's the same form fill action, it means different things based on the content. So always combining the action with the asset or the content piece that they're engaging with to kind of give them that scoring, and then using that to understand how accounts are engaging and how they're going through the funnel will allow for you to then ensure that you're prioritizing things accordingly. I think from overall, you'd want to look at the account coverage. So are we providing that coverage to them by either creating more the place like Kaylin has talked about, where we are touching them on different stages as they spike up on intent signals. At ZoomInfo, we also have air cover, which my team is using heavily right now, where they will use different assets that they're engaging with. And there are some top of the funnel assets they're engaging with, but we know using intent signals that they're ready for middle of the funnel. We will start providing some of the air coverage to them either through programmatic or some of the remarketing campaigns to ensure that we can get them to the next stage. Sales team sometimes, when they're talking to like different accounts, can actually within the platform, say, hey, we want an air coverage, and then marketing can provide that account coverage to them as well. So going from account coverage, engagement, account engagement, then going into influenced pipeline, deal velocity, and the holistic ROI. Those are the data points that I'm looking at to ensure that I'm like allocating my dollars appropriately between different channels and different accounts and segments.
Okay, so then how can organizations leverage data-driven insights to identify upsell and cross-sell opportunities within their existing target accounts?
Yeah, we've touched on this a bit, but it's a huge opportunity. When I started in ABM over a decade ago, the focus was mostly on some of our biggest Fortune 100 accounts. How are we growing these to upsells and retention? And so that, I think, was some of the origination of ABM, at least in my world. So it's definitely not just new business, which, there tends to be a mix now of both existing business and new business for ABM. One of the primary ways that we leverage intent data is to identify those cross-sell and upsell opportunities across our pretty diverse product stack. So the intent data feeds our next logical product machine learning model. So it's a major data point into helping inform everyone across the go-to-market teams where to focus and which product is the next right one to sell. Of course, we want to sell all products to everyone all the time, but that really, the intent data helps drive that focus and efficiency. And most importantly, that alignment, so that, sales is approaching it in the same way marketing is, by using that next logical product model fed by the intent data. We also have automated plays that trigger based off of those intent signals. So we use our ability to target specific titles or personas to cross-sell into new departments or new areas at some of those larger accounts. These are some of our favorite plays, right? It's leveraging our existing relationships with accounts plus intent signals to introduce into new departments and start opening up new revenue streams within those accounts. And lastly, we've really started using this for kind of competitor signals as a way to identify where to focus on retention or where we might know that we're going into a competitive play and leveraging intent signals to inform some of our strategy there. So tons of opportunity to do that within existing target accounts. In fact, I think it's some of the lowest hanging fruit as far as how to use your intent data for ABM.
Absolutely. So now, before we wrap up here and move on to the audience questions, just want to put it out to you both. If there was anything you wanted to leave our audience with today, what would be the last key piece of advice?
Mine is honestly invest in data and invest in tech. Where we are going, it is absolutely crucial that those are the core pillars of any programs that you're going to run. Intent signals, in this case, as we're talking about this topic, are only as good as the time it takes for us to action on them. And a robust tech stack coupled with solid processes that are stacked on top of that gives you that scalability to run a personalized, scalable ABX marketing play where sales, marketing, and broader go-to-market teams are aligned. So get some dollars in, it definitely will give you the ROI back if you keep investing in good data and good tech.
Yeah, and I would just add that, I've talked a lot about go-to-market plays because I'm very excited and passionate about them today, but I really do think that ABM and go-to-market plays are very connected, but they're also different. And I think the modern go-to-market strategy, you're going to need both. Go-to-market plays gives you the flexibility to take advantage of insights you're seeing in your data, quickly engage your customers, enable you to grow a little faster. So making sure that you have, the high potential accounts that you're investing in no matter what, but also capitalizing on those signals in market with your entire ICP and keeping the flexibility and real-time data through go-to-market plays. And so yeah, I really think that that's an exciting space that we're all going to be talking about here soon.
Absolutely. So that is the end of our discussion today. We are going to get to questions, but before I get to those, I would just like to remind our audience to please share your thoughts and feedback before signing off today. You're free to open that survey at any time, or you could just wait until the session ends. So it'll automatically launch. So with that, I have a few questions that came in. So the first one I'm going to grab is, can you share any tips or advice for organizations that are just starting to explore the use of buyer intent data?
Sure. As with anything that you're just starting into, start small, run a pilot. Identify a certain product line, a certain industry or geography that you really want to lean in on, and do your research ahead of time. But also definitely don't do anything without your sales and SDR teams aligned. It will not be successful. So that's usually the first step, is putting together your proposal and a plan for a pilot and getting SDRs and sales aligned on that to make sure that you have sort of that full funnel experience and leveraging that intent data. I think it's a great question.
Awesome. So then the next question I'm going to grab is, do you have any best practices for utilizing intent data in channels, and how can it differ from channel to channel?
I think the first best place, broadly speaking, I'd say, like, in terms of the best practices, is to ensure that you're collecting the data. Let's start over there. And then understanding what is the purpose of the channel. One way for you to utilize that intent data is to make sure that your messaging speaks to what are the intent signals that people are giving. So if somebody is looking for something on the on the web, and then you're coming to the website and the chat pops up, if your messaging can be personalized to their pain points, that is going to have a higher impact, and you'll get closer to your ROI. So marrying the things that you're seeing on the intent side and marrying that to your messaging is going to give you bigger results. As we know, that budget is getting, not, I wouldn't say tight, but we are all like pushed into efficiency and making sure that every dollar that we're spending is being efficient. Ensuring that, again, using those intent signals to prioritize, ruthless prioritization to get to the highest ROI is going to be super beneficial. To also go to the finance and make sure that you can get those extra dollars to keep spending. And then what I would say last but not the least is to not look at each channel as the same, ensuring that whatever the purpose of individual channel is, you are scoring that channel on the purpose of that and looking at holistic ROI, not just a tight sliver ROI of the different like low-hanging fruits.
All right, awesome. Thank you both for such a great presentation. Unfortunately, we are coming up on time today, but to our audience, don't worry if we didn't get to your questions live. We will be following up with answers via email. So with that, Deeksha and Kaylin, thank you both so much for your time today. And of course, thank you to all of our attendees for taking the time to join us today.